everybody. Welcome. We're learning together today. It's been kind of a crazy couple of weeks with the coronavirus or COVID-19 and self-quarantining around the country. So I wanted to, my clinical team and I, my name is Kyndel Marcroft, and I have a private practice. I'm a licensed clinical social worker here in Draper, Utah. And my clinical team and I got together and we decided it would be fun to try to help our community and do some videos, some informative videos, hopefully that would give you some ideas and some thoughts about how to make your situation a little bit more bearable and kind of work on your internal world and be more mindful of that so that you can learn some grounding techniques and help yourself and your kids or your family members through this difficult time. It's really unprecedented. Something like this has never happened in my lifetime, and I think that it has stretched people thin a little bit. We've noticed a lot of anxiety or a rise in anxiety in our world, and I think it's important that we work to understand it and hopefully help it kind of go down a little bit so that we can feel a little bit more empowered to be able to face whatever comes. All right? So I'm going to lay the foundation. So there's going to be videos every day this week. We have a trauma yoga specialist and several of our clinicians that are going to put together videos on some grounding techniques and things like that. I'm going to lay the foundation today on the theory kind of behind what we're doing. This is called the Polyvagal Theory. You have a vagus nerve that runs and connects your body and your brain through your neck here. And we're going to talk about that your brain is in one of 3 different states at any given moment. So we're going to start out with the window of tolerance. So these are all color-coded, kind of according to what they do. So this one is the optimal zone, or green, the go. So when you have a red light and it turns green, we go. So the window of tolerance is our go phase. This is the state of our brain and our body that's regulated by the ventral vagus nerve. The parasympathetic system is stimulated, and your autonomic nervous response is decelerated. So you're in a state of calm and safety. So you have full activation of the prefrontal cortex. So Dan Siegel has kind of shown this model before, so the hand model. Here's the prefrontal cortex. This is the neocortex. Your eyeballs would be about right here, okay? And then the cerebellum and the brainstem. And then if we were to open it up, we've got the limbic system of the brain, the hippocampus, the hypothalamus, different areas of the brain. And this is the prefrontal cortex. This is where we are. This is what's lit up when we're using our prefrontal cortex. This is in the window of tolerance. So when we are in our window of tolerance, or we have green brain, our social engagement system is activated. It's a go to connect with other people and to be able to have interconnectivity and be able to talk and really understand and be present with one another. We can self-soothe when we're in our window of tolerance. We have emotional regulation when we're in our window of tolerance. We can experience a full range of emotions, including anger, really, but with a sense of awareness and control, which is cool because it doesn't mean that you don't ever get angry or anxious, but you're able to kind of have a sense of awareness and be able to calm those things down. And in the window of tolerance, new learning can take place, which is exciting. It's where we want to be because we want our brains to continue to be able to develop and learn and grow from the things that we're experiencing in the present. So the window of tolerance is green. You're working from this part of the brain, that prefrontal cortex, okay? This upper one is the hyper-aroused. So it's in red. This is the freak-out zone. This is the red zone. So this is the red light, means stop. So all things come to a halt. The sympathetic system is activated and accelerated. So increased heart rate, increased blood flow to the large muscles, heightened sensations. So you may notice that when you are in hyper-arousal, your palms may get sweaty. You have hyperhidrosis, which means your armpits may be sweaty. There's lots of different responses where your social engagement system is actively deactivated. So it's very hard to connect, if not impossible to connect, or in a state of hypervigilance. Your fight or flight system is activated. Many of you learned that in your psychology class in either high school or college. So what fight or flight is, this is where that is activated. So if we were to take the model of the brain, open it up, this limbic system right here, this is where we experience hyperarousal. This is what is activated in the brain. So if we were to take a scan of the brain, we would be able to see that this part is activated. This part is not activated, all right? So this part of the brain is the hyperaroused part of the brain. The prefrontal cortex is actually shut down. So there, if we were to take a video, nothing's happening here. It's all happening right here. This is called red brain or the hyperarousal. And no new learning can take place. So thinking is either chaotic, rigid, or you have racing thoughts. So this is a state of kind of high anxiety. And obviously it's kind of on a spectrum. So you can have kind of lower anxiety to higher anxiety depending on the threat or depending on what's happening out in the world. Okay, many of you may have felt, so really in this state you're processing through the limbic system and the brainstem. And many of you may have really noticed yourselves here over the last couple of weeks as the threat of the virus has gotten more and more real and the quarantine, self-quarantining is happening. This threat becomes, it activates our system, it arouses our system. So we have what's called hyperarousal, and that's this state right here, okay? This bottom state is hypoarousal. Hypoarousal, I call it the zone out zone, or the yield brain, okay? It's where everything pauses to wait to see what happens. If you've ever held a roly-poly in your hand, so you pick a roly-poly up off the ground, and you have it in your hands, what happens to it, right? It actually kind of curls in on itself and it plays dead. This is actually part of the brain that will do this for us as well. So this brainstem aspect of our brain puts us in a freeze, okay? So we have a freeze response where we have slow thinking. Our parasympathetic system is activated. So that's by the dorsal vagal nerve. The parasympathetic system runs your heart rate and your digestive system, and that's very activated. So oftentimes when we're in hypoarousal, there's other stuff kind of happening in our bodies that can be uncomfortable. We have extreme deceleration of the autonomic nervous system response. This is an immobilization response. So we become immobile, kind of like the roly-poly does, all right? It's to protect us. It's actually a survival mechanism. It's not wrong. It's actually something that is built into our systems to protect us and to help us survive in difficult circumstances. All right? So there's a flop shutdown response, and no new learning can take place. Also, what happens in this area can be some what's called dissociation. When we're hypoaroused, we can be really shut down. I don't know if any of you have noticed this, but when you're driving home from work or school and you're like, you pull into the driveway and you wonder, how did I get here? You don't actually remember the steps. Your body or your brain wasn't present enough. Your body just kind of kicked in and drove you, right? And that is probably because you were in hyperarousal, kind of shut down emotionally. So dissociation and depression can result. Sometimes people kind of ping pong from hypoarousal to hyperarousal or hyperarousal to hypoarousal, and they skip the window of tolerance altogether. So I want you to think about where you are right now. So here in Utah on Wednesday this week, there was a 5.7 earthquake on Wednesday morning at about 7 a.m. And I was just getting out of bed and it was very jarring, unexpected. All right, so very unexpected. Well, immediately my heart rate went up and I felt like I needed to act, run, do something, protect. And that is this hyperaroused state. So once you've gone to the hyperaroused state, you just can't stay there forever and eventually you shut down. And this is where in the afternoon maybe you needed a nap to kind of recover, right? So at any given moment, we're in one of these three areas. And the goal of, and none of them are wrong. They're all just part of your system to help you survive and to thrive. So this area we want to widen. And over the next few days, we are going to be working on helping you with some strategies to ground, to connect back with yourself, to be mindful about what's happening in your body and in your brain, because I really want you paying attention right, is that our world is very much heightened right now. With the media coverage, with the shutdown, with the financial consequences of some of the things that are happening, people are very hyper aroused and very upset because it's all out of our control. And it can be very scary. And so it bumps us into that hyper aroused space. And when we're in hyper arousal, it's really hard to connect. It's hard, you cannot be present. No new learning can take place. It really impacts our ability to problem solve. And so the premise of what we're doing this week is hopefully to help you learn some techniques to open your window of tolerance, right? So what we want to do is that when we're hyper aroused or upset, we want to learn some techniques to downregulate. So downregulation is actually really important. How do we notice that we're here and calm ourselves down and move into this area that we're more grounded? All right. We also want to learn how to upregulate. You know, we want to, when we are checked out or zoned out, we want to be able to upregulate and get ourselves back in this space of tolerance, so that no matter what happens that is external and out here, that we have a sense of stability and safety. Okay? It's okay for our bodies to feel safe when we are safe, right? If I'm healthy and I'm at home and I'm doing everything I need to be doing, I have this awesome opportunity to be able to feel safe when I am safe, right? And bring me down into my window of tolerance. That noise you hear out there is my husband working on his window of tolerance, actually. So he's actually building something to keep his brain and his body moving into the window of tolerance so he can kind of cope with the stress of working from home. So this is something that we are going to be working on this week. I'm really excited to bring this to you. It's totally going to be just, you know, clinicians doing their best to kind of help teach and train on this issue, and it's going to be fun. So please join us and follow us. And if you have questions or you have comments or anything, please feel free to put those on and we'll get to you as we can. And hey, Godspeed to everybody. This is a really challenging time. We are going to be vacillating between these areas, and if we can be extra kind and extra patient with each other. Nobody's out there trying to do these dumb things that you kind of see. Nobody's out there purposely doing that for the most part. Obviously there are some, but if we could have more patience and some tolerance for each other, because everybody is trying to figure this out and trying to work through their own anxiety and fear. So Godspeed everyone, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.